Welcome into DNVR Madness Live. I'm Henry Chisholm with Ben Gerding and Justin Michael. Today is the first real day of the NCAA tournament. There was a couple of things going on last night. We're going to cover those real quickly and then jump into some of our favorite picks of the day. So let's just get right into it with our recap from yesterday. It would probably be smart to go through these games in chronological order, but I really want to talk about that UCLA-Michigan game or Michigan State game that closed the night out. How much fun was that?
I mean, it lived up to expectations, right? Like that's what you want March Madness to be. I really thought all four of these games were competitive, but yeah, let's talk about this Michigan State UCLA game. Michigan State, man, they had firm control. They just couldn't seem to bury UCLA. UCLA's been pesky all season. I know they closed the season out on a 4-game losing streak. Not exactly what you want to do. But what did you feel like was the difference in this one, Ben?
I mean, it was just Hani Hawkes and Johnny Juzang just took over. You know, Henry and I, we've been watching a lot of UCLA all season long, and they have a very balanced attack. They have a lot of guys that can beat you. Mick Cronin's done a great job this season overcoming Chris Smith's injury. But last night, I think is really, it was a great primer for what this March Madness is going to be, because you saw their one or two best players just take over the game, really dominate and put it on their backs. And look, I've been a staunch Mick Cronin in the tournament opposer because of his history at Cincinnati. I've been on record multiple times, never bet on the Bruins. Upsets here, not UCLA is an upset. Obviously, they won't be playing until tomorrow, but I think that's something to watch for. They looked great, and some of their best players are starting to really, really come alive when it matters.
Yeah, I know.
How deep do you oh my goodness, sorry guys. What kind of run do you see this UCLA team going on? I mean, it's an interesting region given that they now have to play BYU. I kind of liked Michigan State's matchup against BYU better than I like UCLA, but I think you were telling me before we started here, both of you guys still have UCLA beating BYU in that first round matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going with BYU now, though. And for the reason that you said, I think that both those teams, I mean, obviously it was a close game. They both played pretty well, I thought. It's just the matchup. If Michigan State went through, I think I would have really liked that. UCLA now, after seeing them struggle with the rebounding last night, going up against BYU, like that size disadvantage is only going to make things even worse. And it's tough to see them surviving another round. Although I do think like that offensive upside is there. Also, that injury to Jaime Jaquez at the end is going to put some things into question as well.
Yeah, I've got them over BYU. And again, that is a classic. Looking for upsets of who I like. I think a lot of bias there is I know a lot about the Pac-12, so I'm probably going to nod with some of those teams a little bit more. But I think their ceiling is getting out of the first weekend here, because most likely they're going to end up playing a team like Texas, and I don't think they have the firepower to keep up with the Longhorns if it comes to that.
Agreed. Yeah. Just briefly, let's go over the Norfolk State Appalachian State game, a playing game for the 16 seed. Norfolk State, they led by 19 in the first half, 16 at halftime. Appalachian State, they came, roaring back. They were 0 of 18 from the 3-point line at one point. Pretty impossible to win under those circumstances, but they fought. They made it interesting. And kudos to Norfolk State, Jalen Hawkins, who had a career-high 24 points. They're able to hold on. The game I really want to talk about is Wichita State and Drake, playing game for the 11 seed. This was just a blast. Shout out to our producer, Kale, Drake alum. Kale, are you still on Cloud 9 right now?
I am. I'm still riding high from that win yesterday. I've never because I didn't go to a big state school like you guys did. This was the biggest win Drake's had since I got there as a freshman, and there's no feeling like it when it's your own school. I got to be honest. No feeling like it.
I made the mistake of betting against Drake, and here's why that was a big mistake. Yesterday was the 50-year anniversary of Drake's last NCAA tournament win. They win it exactly 50 years to the day even. That's insane. That's what sports are all about. I mean, guys, I felt like Wichita State had this one throughout, and Drake somehow won this game. I really don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah, I got really hot betting yesterday. Actually, I got really hot the day before and carried it into yesterday. And one of my big hits was a parlay Drake when they were down 9 at plus 400 with UCLA to win later that night. And I can't remember what the odds were, but for that reason, I'm a huge Drake fan going forward.
Yeah, I just have to shout out.
Team.
Yeah, I just have to shout out Joseph Yesufu. He was the NBC's six-man player of the year, six-man of the year in the NBC, and just came out, really filled in well as a starter down the stretch of the season, and then came out and was Drake's best player hands down yesterday. Tank, who had been their best player through the regular season, was hurt. It was his first game back from injury yesterday, ended up playing less than 10 minutes, and Yesufu just put the team on his back. Hit 2 huge threes down the stretch to get him within 5, and the rest is history.
We got to talk about Darnell Brody, though, man. I mean, in foul trouble, has 3 incredible defensive sequences in the post in the last couple of minutes. And then, excuse my language here, but this is the only way to say it, guys, just hits a fuck you floater. I mean, just a turnaround jump shot to bury him. The type of shot that, I mean, if you're a Wichita State fan, you're going to see that in your head for the next 6 months, just on repeat. Boom. There goes your dreams. There goes your hopes. You're out of the tournament. Gotta love the Drake Bulldogs.
The worst part is Brody is a post player almost primarily. He's not a good shooter. So Wichita State, 10 times out of 10, they're okay with Brody taking that shot. They are. Like, that's a good defensive possession from them, but it puts them over the top. We can move on. Just wanted to shout out my Bulldogs.
Yeah. Does anybody have any Drake moving on?
No, I don't.
No. And obviously we don't have any 16s, right?
No.
So the only potential, I mean, there are multiple potential, but Ben has UCLA getting another win, but that's it for the first 4 teams for all of us, right?
It's just such a tough draw given that they have to go and face USC now. Evan Mobley. I mean, look, Drake was tough and they were banging in the post last night, but the size differential in this USC matchup is just going to be absolutely brutal. Weirder things have happened. I mean, this, maybe we get a Ali Farouk-Manesh moment where you get, a team out of the Missouri Valley making a little bit of noise, but hey, this is March. Anything is possible. I don't want to say it's impossible, but it feels very, very likely that Drake's Cinderella season is going to come to an end, but it's still worth celebrating it. If that's how it's going to end, pretty good season.
Yeah, I don't have any 16s. I will say I've met a lot of USC fans in this lifetime. I've only met one Drake alum. And so that does actually, it makes me pull for the Bulldogs a little bit more here. Unfortunate that they're going up against USC. I do think when you've got not just a lottery pick, but a pretty much lock for a top 5 pick, it is so tough to bet against them in the first round when they're the higher seed. So that's kind of where I'm at with them. And with that being said, I have USC in my main bracket going to the Elite 8. So for what that's worth.
Yeah, let's jump into some of that stuff now. We covered everything we've seen so far, but there's a big day of basketball in front of us. And let's just dig into what to watch for. And I'll start with you, Ben. What do you think the biggest storyline today is?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's really a lot. Honestly, it's how are some of these middle seeds going to fare? It's not like I'm going to sit here and pick a 16 or a 15 to upset. But this is our first look at a tournament in a bubble with, their only fans are going to be, friends and family. This is that first look at this environment. So how different is that going to be? I think another interesting thing is the way the NCAA has it set up is nobody's going to play in the same venue twice in one weekend. So, for example, Baylor, Hartford, North Carolina, Wisconsin, they're playing in different gyms today. That's different than what we normally see. The round of 32, they'll move on together into another new gym. So lots of kind of things where you're not going to get used to the rims. You're not going to really get used to the atmosphere. So I do expect this really might be a best team is going to prevail. I think it could go either way. It could be upsets galore, or it could be it's the top 8 seeds at the end of the day for each region. That's my expert analysis, as there's no real analysis, but take that as what it is.
Awesome. What do you think, Justin?
I'm kind of interested to see how some of these metrics end up playing out in the tournament. We've got a really intriguing matchup with number 14 Colgate taking on number 3 Arkansas. Now, if you didn't follow Colgate, they won the Patriot League, went 14-1 this year, 13 straight wins to close out the regular season. They're number 9 in net. And it's a really just fascinating story of how accurate are these numbers? We're going to find out because they're playing a damn good team in Arkansas. I would have been very intrigued if Colgate wouldn't have won the Patriot League tournament. Would they have still gotten into the tournament, just given that their net ranking is so absurdly high? I kind of have a feeling it's going to be an instance where Arkansas beats the living breaks off of them. And then, the pundits get real skeptical of what these numbers actually mean.
I'm going big on Colgate here. I talked a little bit about my big day betting yesterday, and there was that first parlay that put some money on the UCLA game. But then when UCLA went down, I decided that I wanted to double down on them, but I didn't want to just bet on UCLA, so I made a little parlay, and I parlayed UCLA at plus 420 with Colgate at plus 280, $5 to win 100. And so I'm sitting on that today, and it feels pretty good because I really, really like Colgate.
I'm so upset it's Arkansas. If it were any other 3 seed, I could get on it. But Arkansas is just a fun team to root for. And, honestly, I feel that way about a lot of the games today, just as far as the region breakdown. And we'll talk a little bit about it. But I don't have the name in front of me. I think it's the Midwest, the one where Illinois is the 1 seed. I hate that region so much because I love so hard teams. Illinois, not Oregon State, I'm sorry. Illinois, Oklahoma State. Hell, Oregon State even would be a fun team to root for. You've got West Virginia, you've got Houston. So many fun teams to root for there. And that's why I'm not on Colgate, is because I don't want to see the must bus end early.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of in the same spot. I do like Arkansas too, and that's what makes it so hard to pick Colgate. But when you look around, I felt like there were 2 regions where I just didn't like any of the upsets, and there were 2 regions where I just took pretty much all the upsets. And I just bought into that strategy, and I think there's going to be some chaos on one side. And that's kind of one of the weird things, and I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think there will be more upsets this year because of everything that's going on, or less? I don't know. I'm curious.
I got a lot of chalk in my Elite Eight. It's so much so that it makes me pretty nervous. And I don't want to spoil my bold prediction, so I'm not going to talk too much about Arkansas here. I will say I'm all in on the must bus. If he's driving, I'm changing the tires and getting everybody's bags because I love this team. I think they're going to go on a crazy run, but I'll get into that a little bit more later. I could see a scenario where it gets weird just given, we've had so few games in front of fans. It's basically a neutral atmosphere for everybody. There are a couple teams close in the region that are going to have close to a home court advantage just given that, their fans probably bought more of the tickets. But, there's not really any advantage for anyone. It's just 2 teams going out and hooping. And sometimes that can lead to some pretty weird results.
Yeah, I mean, I think I do think it's just going to swing either way. There's either going to be a lot of upsets or it's going to be a lot of chalk. But I think you make a great point. And I'll use a very stupid analogy here. When I go to the rack, I am not at all intimidating. But I sometimes win games. I don't have the skill of some of these other guys that live in the gym. I don't have the height or the athleticism. But I sometimes win games, and that's exactly because of what you said, Justin. When you just get a bunch of people in one room where you kind of take everything else out of it, and this is so basic, just 2 teams, let's ball, you're going to have a lot of fun matchups. So I'm talking myself into it. Screw it. We're going to have upsets galore. This is going to be a March Madness like you've never seen because the stakes are so much higher, yet so much lower. You hear every game, you can hear each other's sidelines, and really, your bench is your biggest fans. That just fosters a different environment. And, I think that's going to increase the likelihood of some Cinderella stories because there's not like you're going to have a lot of fans, So you look at a team like Drake going up against USC, and obviously that's a game for tomorrow. But, again, it's one of those things where if you're on that sideline, if you're on that bench, you're saying, why not? Why not us? We can take down Evan Mobley. Screw it. Nobody else is going to sit here and say we can't. So I'm all aboard Upsetville now. Let's do it.
I love it.
Let's go into our upsets then. We still have more games that I want to preview, and we can kind of come back to that. But it seems kind of natural just to transition into that then. Henry's already teased us a little bit. He's all in on Colgate. Are there any other upset picks that you're in on?
Yeah. It's honestly irresponsible what my upset picks are going into today. And so I just want to preface that as like maybe look at Ben's as like really good picks. Look at Justin's as also like good picks. And then look at mine as kind of like a shotgun strategy to maybe like use their opinions to sort through. I like Colgate. I'm tempted by Virginia Tech. Utah State with the big man, like I kind of want to bet on that as well. I will pass on Oral Roberts against Ohio State because that would just be absurd. But honestly, I really want to put money on Oregon State against Tennessee too, but I'm going to leave that one off. And then North Texas against Purdue, I think is a fun one. Winthrop is the other against Villanova. Another team, one loss all season. Going up against a Villanova team that lost their best player and hasn't won since still. Like, I think that if I had to pick one, that last game of the night, Winthrop over Villanova would be the one.
Yeah, Winthrop Villanova, as soon as this bracket dropped, I'm pretty sure we were live, and I said, there it is. That's one of your 12-5s. It has become such a sexy pick that I really don't want it anymore.
It's too obvious.
I've got my bracket up right now, and I'm going to be making changes until 10:15, I feel like. But that is a game to watch for sure. Some of mine, I've got Virginia Tech over Florida. I have Oregon State over Tennessee. So I've picked two 12-5 upsets. Obviously, I'm not picking Georgetown over Colorado. So my two 12-5 upsets right now are Winthrop over Villanova and Oregon State over Tennessee. I have Rutgers over Clemson. So today I've got both 10 seeds overcoming the 7 seeds. And honestly, I think the 7-10 is as close as the 8-9 this year and any other year I remember. So those are really kind of coin flip games for me. One other one to watch, and Justin's going to kill me for it. Syracuse over San Diego State. I don't know what it is, but I really like that matchup as an 11 over a 6. I know the metrics love San Diego State. They had a great season. 23-4, but there's something about it that is just drawing me to Syracuse. Talk me off that ledge, Justin.
The history favors your logic, if we're being completely honest. If there is anything that's synonymous with the Syracuse brand, it's sneaking in with a mediocre record and then making a run in March Madness. They get in on name brand alone. They don't deserve to be there. Let me make that perfectly clear. Syracuse should not be in this tournament. Louisville had a better resume. Colorado State had a better resume. It's really like if you just put them up blind resumes, it's really not even that close. I'm trying not to get all upset here, but look, Mountain West teams, they have not performed in the tournament historically. Time and time again, we've had so many good San Diego State teams going back to Kawhi Leonard and like the days of Jimmer Fredette at BYU in the old Mountain West. I'm all in. I watch it. These teams are so good. I watch them compete. And then they lose in the first round. And Mountain West fans are like, what the hell, man? That said, this San Diego State team, they're really good. Matt Mitchell, he's finally healthy. He's playing great basketball. They've got Terrell Gomez, who's come on really strong down the stretch. Wyoming actually pushed them in the semifinals, and he made like 13 straight points in 4 minutes at one point down the stretch. Just a really, really strong closeout. Hank brought up Oral Roberts, Ohio State. I don't have a ton to say about that game, but I will say I recently had Eli Betker, a national college basketball analyst, on the Rams pod, and that is an upset that he took, 15 Oral Roberts or over number 2 Ohio State. Eli knows his stuff, guys. Like, Ben and I know hoops, and then Eli knows hoops. Like, he lives and breathes. That's all he does. Something to look out for. My upset of the day is North Texas over Purdue. And it makes me a little bit nervous because Purdue, I think they figured out some of their issues late in the season, but I just love this North Texas roster. It's a bunch of JUCO guys. I like teams like that, teams that are built with veterans, teams that, if there's a team that doesn't give a crap about the conditions in the bubble, about, the food being a little bit cold, the hotel being a little bit inconvenient, it's North Texas, because these are dudes that have had to grind for everything. And I love a team like that. I just think they're fun to root for. Also got some personal allegiances. Former CSU coach Ross Hodge is their associate head coach. Really good dude. I'll be pulling for North Texas to take down Purdue today.
That's a good one. I've got another game that I'm curious about your guys' opinion on, and that's North Carolina. They were so disappointing to start the season, but did enough to make it into the tournament, get an 8 seed. Am I crazy for thinking that they have a chance to go on just a little bit of a run?
No, they're playing really good basketball right now. Probably the best basketball that they've, played all season. It's been an up and down year for North Carolina. I've lost a lot of money on the Tar Heels, if we're being completely honest. So many times I've all right, they figured it out. And then they, drop a game that you just can't really explain. Offensively, I really like how they, fare in this one. Wisconsin teams are always going to play, pressure you. They're going to make it work deep into the shot clock. I just don't think Wisconsin has the scoring to keep up with North Carolina in this matchup. I'd love to hear what Ben thinks, but I just think this one really favors North Carolina, and I could definitely see them winning a game or two even.
Yeah, I think North Carolina probably does have your best bet against Baylor, and that's because RK was on for our selection show, and he was talking about you like to bet on the coach. And in that regard, North Carolina against Baylor, I think that's a phenomenal matchup. One thing to consider, though, is Wisconsin, they have a talented team. The problem with the Badgers are they're so inconsistent. I mean, they could win this game by 50 points or lose by 50 points. And quite frankly, I would not be shocked either way. And so that's just so tough when you're trying to pick an 8-9 matchup where it's not like the teams match up well and you're expecting a good game. It's realistically, for me, it's less about North Carolina and more about, is Wisconsin actually going to show up today? And for me, I'm siding with the Tar Heels. I think it is a toss-up, but Wisconsin inconsistency, it concerns me. And when you have a team that's inconsistent, I'm going to go with the more veteran team and the more veteran coach, the guy who's been there and done it more. That's Roy Williams in North Carolina.
Where are you at with this Texas Tech Utah State game? We kind of got into it briefly before when Henry brought it up. Look, every part of me wants to take Utah State in this game, just given that I am a Mountain West guy. I absolutely love Niemus Keita, and I'm stoked that he has an opportunity to be in this tournament. And quite frankly, I think Texas Tech's lack of size is going to make it interesting in some regards. I will say Utah State's inability to create their own offense, they don't really have a guard that can just, create separation, make his own shot. They relied so heavily on Sam Merrill these last couple of years to be that guy for them. I'm not trying to discredit Marco Anthony. I love Justin Bean, the power forward as well, but I just think Texas Tech's firepower and their, 3-guard combo with Shannon, Edwards, and McClung is going to be just too much to overcome. And admittedly, even as a Mountain West fan, it's hard for me to root against a guy like Mac McClung because he's what the tournament is all about, a big shot guy, fun to root for, fun to watch. But where are you at with this one, Ben?
Well, excuse me, I'm torn, to be honest with you, because everything you said is spot on. The one thing that keeps me coming back to the Red Raiders is they were it's hard to think about, but this team was in the championship game the last time we had a tournament. And so, with Chris Beard, I feel like they have a kind of a formula as far as how do you make a run in March Madness. The other thing that is making me side with Texas Tech in this one is I do love the fact that they've got kind of the bruises of the Big 12 schedule. So they have a lot of experience against a lot of tough opponents. And so while you bring up a lot of great points against Utah State and especially Niemus Keita, look, they're not going to be able to get anything going in the paint. Texas Tech's game plan in this game is going to be outside perimeter shooting, and they're going to have to win in transition. They're going to have to force turnovers and win in transition because
that's not their strength.
No, it's not. And that's the problem, is because their best chance at making it to the rim is if Niemus Keita is still at the other end of the floor. So it's going to be a good matchup. It's a very fast 6'11". Side with Texas Tech, I think they've got the bruises of the Big Ten or Big Conference makes me want to side with them because how to play in some bigger games. That being said, too, they haven't closed the season particularly well, But I think some of these finishes are good enough for me to have faith in this team. They only lost to Texas by 1 point in the tournament. I'm riding with the Red Raiders. And before we get into our bold predictions, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm riding with the Red Raiders.
3-8 against top 25 teams this year. I will say that. Did have a pair of regular season wins over Texas before losing that 1 point game. So like Ben said, they have hung well even in losing efforts. But 3-8 against top 25 teams, 3-8 against top 25 teams. Going to be interesting to see. Let's move on. Talk about our bold predictions as we wrap up here. We've got the game starting in about 10 minutes. So we want to let you guys, get your snacks, get ready to go. God, I'm so excited. March Madness is here, baby. Bold predictions. Just real quickly, who you got in your Final Four?
Yeah, I guess I'll start this. This bracket, I'm on version 808, I guess. I keep touching it up. My logic for this, I want to preview. I've got 2 number 1 seeds in, no more, no less. I think that is the kind of the historical way to do this to the best of your mathematic abilities. And then outside of that, I just kind of went with the team that I felt good about in the other 2 regions. So my 1 seeds are going to be Gonzaga and Illinois. So my Final Four is Gonzaga facing Alabama. And I've got Illinois on the other side of the bracket facing, you guessed it, Texas Tech. Look, I don't feel great about the Red Raiders. But I think, like I said, I think they've got a formula to get there. And of any kind of lower seed, unexpected ones, I think Texas Tech is going to be able to. And that's quite frankly because all of my lower seeded teams that I liked were in Illinois' region. I would have loved to pick Oklahoma State to make it, but I couldn't. So my hand was kind of forced here. Texas Tech upsetting on their way Ohio State and Baylor to get to that Final Four.
Woo. And Arkansas, technically.
Yes, and Arkansas.
Hank, who you got?
I've got, and this is still subject to change for another 7 minutes, it looks like. As of right now, I'm rolling with Gonzaga beating Bama on one side and Illinois beating Ohio State on the other side. Pretty chalky with 2 1s and 2 2s. Not the hottest of takes. Honestly, mostly just like 4 teams that I'm excited to watch play, and I kind of want to be able to cheer for them, and that was a lot of the reason I picked them.
I'm really nervous because all 3 of us have Gonzaga, Alabama, and Illinois in our Final Four.
Yeah, it's
I will
crazy.
say Michigan, of all the 1 seeds, they're the hardest to believe in just at the moment, I would say, based on how they closed out this season. No disrespect. They've had a phenomenal year. I just trust Illinois and what they bring to the table a little bit more. My 4th Final Four team, though, as I kind of hinted to earlier, is Arkansas. So that Arkansas-Texas Tech game is going to be really big for Ben and my's brackets. Going to basically make or break us, assuming both of those teams do move on. I think I might be a little too high on Arkansas, and I'm willing to admit that. The thing is they just play with such phenomenal pace. Like them and Alabama both, they will run you off the court. I love their guard combo and Moses Moody and JD Notae. These are guys that are just fearless. They let it fly. And I joked about this earlier on the DNVR Madness, but JD Notae follows me on Twitter. It doesn't take that much for me to root for you. Just, give me a little follow on Twitter. I'll pull for you. That's not the reason I've got them in the Final Four, though. It's just they're great offensively. They're even better defensively, which most people don't recognize. Same goes for Alabama. The SEC, better than the ACC this year. At times better than, at least on the bottom half, better than the Big 12 and Big 10. But just a great year. It's a great year for both of these programs. Must bus all the way. I think that's about it. I think that's, unless you guys have anything else you want to say on this first day of action, we made it, guys. 2 years of no March Madness, and it's finally here.
I have one question. First game of the day, Virginia Tech, Florida. Who are we taking?
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech.
I
Henry,
I like their balanced approach.
Yeah.
All right.
Look, man, they were 5-5 in Q1, Q2 games, undefeated outside of that. They fared pretty well against quality opponents all year, took care of business against lesser. And there's just something about this Florida team that I can't trust. They've been up and down. They did have a couple of key wins. They beat Tennessee. They beat West Virginia. But they also lost to South Carolina. They lost to Kentucky late in the year. they feel like frauds to me. I'm all in on Virginia Tech, even though they've been up and down. And with that, I think we'll let you guys go enjoy your day of college basketball. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, 9:30 a.m., previewing Saturday's games. Got the Buffs early at 10:15. Make sure you follow the Buffs guys. We've got CSU coverage tonight of the NIT. Hey, I know it's not the NCAA tournament, but it's postseason basketball. This is March. I'm Justin. I'm with Hank. I'm with Ben. Enjoy the March Madness. Tune into our Big Bets Bonanza.